Hello, this is James Barton from Developing Telecoms, and as you can see, we're here at Mobile World Congress 2025. Today I'm with Enghouse Networks with Rodrigo and Guy, and we're going to be discussing mobile device management. The first aspect of this that we're going to focus on is on security compliance. So with that in mind, let's talk about the NIS2 regulations and what that's going to mean for enterprise strategies and how MDM helps with compliance.
Well, I think a very important thing to recognise is that this landscape is shifting rapidly, and it's also changing to expand, not just in terms of service providers and their enterprise customers, but the devices that they use in order to access networks are now a key part of the surface, the attack surface. So with that in mind, how can MDM shift to help enterprises manage that challenge?
MDM is the best way, the best strategy to address that, because if we consider iOS, Apple, it's only one operating system, so it's easier to secure that. But when we look at the Android perspective, there are lots of manufacturers, lots of different operational systems. For example, Samsung has his specific operating system, Motorola, LG, and other devices. So MDM is the best strategy because it can manage Android and iOS devices in the hardware level. So we bind the devices to the MDM solution. So as soon as you turn it on, the MDM will be installed and fully controlled by the service provider.
And you can do that irrespective of the build level of the Android operating system.
That's it, because
Okay.
we bind with the IMEI of the devices.
Okay.
Unique ID.
Okay, and that's very important because data breaches, if you have a mixed device environment with mixed operating systems in the enterprise, you've got a hugely moving target, haven't you?
Yeah, and it's even important because we can also consider BYOD devices when it's a personal device and the person's using to work. When you use MDM on these devices, you split the devices in two profiles. So everything that is already there on a personal device, it's going to be there. But to access corporate information, the MDM will split in two different profiles. So one does not talk to the other. So the corporate information is fully protected, encrypted, even in a personal device.
Okay, really interesting. So, and then we're going to look at the idea of MDM as a service, correct? Yeah. So if you're offering that, or rather if a provider is offering this, then would, for example, a user need to be a customer of that provider to have MDM as a service?
Yeah, it's a very good strategy, actually, even for telecom providers. They're in a unique position nowadays because they're expanding their portfolio, including security solutions. MDM is one of them. So they can provide MDM as a service together as a value-added service with their mobile plans, with their hardware as a service offerings. So they can combo their offering with MDM.
I think we need to pick that one up, actually, because a key theme at Mobile World Congress this year has been about adding and enriching B2B service portfolios. But the answers aren't flooding in. Operators are still scratching their heads wondering what specific B2B capabilities can I now add to my mix. And this seems a very logical extension because you already have customers. They may be on your network, they may not be, but your customer is the enterprise. Okay, and in the enterprise, they have to wrestle with exactly the same legislation that you have to, because they have the same security concerns and they're governed by the same regulations.
Yeah, very interesting. When they are providing hardware, for example, so they need to secure, that they have a responsibility to secure information to protect the end user. Again, MDM in mobile devices is the best strategy at the moment.
Yeah, and I think this is a really interesting field because it's not just, as you say, the user devices. There are other kinds of devices which are now proliferating across the enterprise. So there's IoT, and there are also other ways of dedicating connectivity to particular groups of devices through SD-WAN and other kinds of enterprise connectivity. Now, how does that affect MDM overall, Rodrigo?
Yeah, very interesting point. Through MDM, we can secure what devices are going to connect, are going to access corporate information. So through MDM, we can track where this request is coming from. I mean, the location of the device, if the device is in compliance, sorry. So any device will only have access to corporate information in case they are in compliance. So we can, well, create lots of restriction policies to avoid unattended device or unauthorized device to access information.
So every device has a profile that is essentially managed through some policy server that you implement.
Yeah, and also the networks as well.
So some pretty big security ramifications there. What are the main challenges in terms of security then?
Well, I think it's clear that the attackers see this expanding footprint of IoT devices as a door. It's a gateway into the corporate world. And it doesn't matter whether you're a big enterprise or a small enterprise, you still have these risk vectors which are proliferating. And yes, you can control individual users through policies and profiles, but you've got to think about things that aren't under individual user control as such, but which nonetheless are a gateway into the enterprise. And from the enterprise, and this is why I go back to the regulation, from the enterprise into the service provider network itself. So perhaps you can raise some comments on that.
Yeah, and another point to add to that is small and medium businesses they're struggling to access MDM, to have access to MDM, because only large enterprises are, well, worried, I would say, about security, but the regulations for everyone. So best way to a small and medium company to have access to an MDM is through a service provider. I don't know.
But it could also be a small enterprise in terms of numbers of people, but with thousands of devices, because they're adding these IoT capabilities into their portfolio. So if you think about how operators have traditionally targeted B2B, they tend to go for SME and above. But if you're 20 people or 30 people, you're kind of below the radar. So for a service provider to explicitly target that segment is quite a big step, but at the same time, we're now talking about potentially thousands and hundreds or thousands of devices, even in that small segment of the market.
Absolutely. So what is Enghouse doing then to address that?
Yeah, so we're always creating partnerships with service providers, because let's say if a service provider is providing hardware to their customers, even if it's a small customer, they will need hardwares. They will need mobile devices or connectivity. So it's better for them. It's better to Enghouse to partner with them so they can include MDM in their portfolio, because every customer will hire it for them. So they can offer it as a benefit or as a combo in their offerings. And the customer will benefit from the security layer.
Okay, and that applies not just to the devices that an individual employee might use or bring to the company, as you said, through BYOD, but also for other kinds of sensors or remote data collection hardware. That's also covered.
Yeah. You're correct.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks. Guy, Rodrigo, thank you very much.